A good Thursday to you. I'm Dennis Ward. Welcome to APTN National News. The Alberta Serious Response Team, ACERT for short, has released more details about the fatal interaction on September 17th between a 42-year-old member of the Blood Tribe and several members of the Calgary Police Service. Creason Achkate has more.
According to ACERT, at around 12:56 a.m., Calgary police responded to a call from hotel staff about removing an unwanted person from the lobby of the Carriage House Hotel. A lone officer entered the lobby to find the man standing near the check-in desk. What happened next was captured on a body camera. The male has no weapons and the officer orders the man to leave. The male acts confused, attempting to pick up non-existent items off the floor. 30 seconds later, the officer aims a taser at the man and again orders him to leave. The man raises his hands and agrees to leave, asking the officer not to shoot him. As he makes his way towards the exit, he says, "I don't want to die." Two other officers arrive and the man says again that he doesn't want to die. The taser is put away and the man is grabbed by the first officer. ACERT says the man was never told he was being arrested. The man resists and is then tackled by another officer who punches the man in the head while both are on the ground. Officers 1 and 3 then taser the man, and for more than 3 minutes the fight continues before his hands and legs are cuffed. More officers arrive and the man is seen bleeding from his mouth and vomits. A spit mask is then put on while the man is face down, and paramedics inject a sedative 7 minutes later after he was cuffed. The man is left to lay face down in handcuffs, leg restraints, and the spit mask for about 3 more minutes until officers realize he is unresponsive. The man was provided medical care but declared deceased at the scene. ACERT says they are examining the use of force by the officers.
APTN News has identified the man as 42-year-old John Wells from the Blood Tribe, a longtime rodeo competitor who competed in both Canada and the United States. He was also the former president of the Blood Tribe Agricultural Society. His funeral was held on Wednesday. Meanwhile, still in Alberta, Haas Lightning Saddleback's August 30th death has left his home community of Samson Cree Nation and the homeless community in nearby Wetaskiwin shaken 3 weeks after his shooting by RCMP there. APTN's Leanne Sanders traveled to the community to talk to members who want to see change.
He was let down by the whole system.
Community activist Stephanie Fleury says when the 15-year-old was shot, he was likely looking for his mother, who was not homeless, but was staying with relatives. His mother spent time in a field where the unhoused gathered as a community. The field is near where Haas was shot.
Because he was in crisis and he was looking for his mom. I don't think he was out to hurt anyone. He was scared. That's why he called the police for help. And how does a call for help turn into you getting killed by the police that you called for help? It doesn't make sense.
Fleury said police had other options, such as calling a crisis worker, something echoed by another local activist.
I wish they would have called mobile health from Muskogees to come and stop this interaction. I wish there was people that are out there to help with crisis that people are having. There's nothing.
The fear left in the wake of the shooting hasn't left this man, who was unhoused until this past spring, but now has custody of his young teenage son. He asked for his identity to be hidden, he says, out of fear of the police. We will call him Mike.
And it was a 15-year-old boy, and I was worried because I got picked up tonight and I thought it was my son, and I couldn't sleep at all.
What do you tell him to try to keep him safe?
Stay home and just play those games. I'll pay for everything else, just play those games. Don't even come out in these streets, because these streets ain't around here. It's messed up.
Terry Smallboy, a community member, said everyone is still in shock over Lightning Saddleback's death.
I feel as though it wasn't about the RCMP feeling like they were threatened. They suffer an identity crisis far more than our own people, I feel. Once they're in uniform, there's a completely different person in that uniform. than there is outside of that uniform.
At the time, Lightning Saddleback's death was among 7 deaths of First Nations people involving RCMP or police services in Canada within 3 weeks. That number has now grown to 9. All remain under investigation by outside agencies. As for preventing something like this from happening again, Stephanie Fleury has some ideas.
I think that our res needs its own tribal police, and if the RCMP is going to deal with Native people, they need to have a crisis worker to talk in between them, because the police use excessive force.
Haas Lightning's family is planning an awareness walk on September 30th, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, when everyone is reminded that every child matters. Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Wetaskiwin, Alberta.
You can find much more on this story over on our website, aptnnews.ca. Meanwhile, one man is dead after an officer-involved shooting on the Fishing Lake First Nation in Saskatchewan. CTV's Sierra D'Souza Butts has the details and reaction from the Assembly of First Nations.
It started around 1 p.m. when officers tried to pull over a speeding van. Shortly after, a call came into RCMP about a van that had been stolen from a school on the First Nation by a man who was reportedly armed. Certs say firearms were discharged, though not by who. The van continued to travel, but more shots were fired when the vehicle came to a stop. The only occupant of the vehicle was found inside. He was declared dead on scene by EMS. The man has been identified as 34-year-old Joseph Desjardins, who was wanted by police on charges in relation to a string of robberies in the area. This is the 3rd time in the last month that an Indigenous person has died following an encounter with Saskatchewan RCMP.
Can you imagine how those families feel, how those communities feel, and how First Nations as a whole feel? Like, do we feel safe in our own homeland? Not with this, absolutely not.
Late last month, an RCMP vehicle struck a man on the highway near Buffalo Narrows. On September 9th, another man died in a fatal officer-involved shooting on Atakakub Cree Nation.
In an era where we're trying to build a different country, it's setting us back. So we need action and we need results and we need a different way of doing things. And I think that starts with making sure we start to invest in First Nations police forces across this country.
A statement from Saskatchewan RCMP says, when officers respond to a call, serious injury or death is never the outcome they want, adding, each incident is unique and calls for service often unfold quickly and are dynamic and unpredictable. Desjardins' family has been notified of his death. Members of Fishing Lake are asking for privacy as the community is grieving at this time. The Serious Incident Response Team is now investigating the RCMP's interaction with Desjardins and the circumstances surrounding his death. Sierra D'Souza Butts, CTV News, Yorkton.
More than 50 years ago, 8 students from residential schools in southern Manitoba were returning home to Bunnabonaby Cree Nation by plane. Shortly after takeoff in Winnipeg, the plane crashed, killing all, including the pilot. On Wednesday, a historical marker commemorating the victims was unveiled near the crash site. Sav Jonza has more.
The unveiling of this commemorative monument comes 52 years after a tragedy. The names of 8 students and a pilot are engraved in stone to be forever remembered. They were on their way to Bunnabonaby Cree Nation on June 24, 1972, when their plane crashed shortly after takeoff in Winnipeg, leaving no survivors.
Everyone in our community remembers this as the darkest day in our community's history, and we need to ensure that it's never forgotten. And we owe it to the 8 students who made the ultimate sacrifice while trying to pursue their dreams, and we owe it to their parents, siblings, and friends to celebrate the lives of their loved ones for the short time they were with us here on Earth.
The students, aged 14 to 21, were returning home from residential schools near Manitoba's capital, roughly 600 kilometers south of Bunnabonaby. What would have been a joyous reunion for the families who couldn't see their loved ones for months at a time while they were away turned to devastation as they learned their fate. Bunbonabee Chief Richard Hart says if residential schools didn't exist, perhaps the students would still be alive today.
Many First Nation students across Canada returned to their communities with a broken spirit that could not be healed, and that affected their families from generation to generation. Many students never returned. Many died alone while at these schools and were buried in unmarked graves. Others, like our students, died just trying to get home to where the familiar and where the family and where the feeling of safety lied.
The monument stands only a few hundred meters away from where the plane crashed in a Winnipeg suburb. It's still not clear what caused the accident. The Royal Aviation Museum of Western Canada requested the monument's creation, and it was unanimously approved by City Council. Stacey Robinson is the niece of Iona Wienusk, one of the students who died.
To think of how the excitement these 8 students were feeling, taking off, coming home.
She says the monument may bring closure for some, but not all.
There's still that heartache that they're missing their sisters and their brothers, right? Kind of hard to say there's a closure, but having the stone here means a lot to the families.
Surrounding the monument are 9 saplings, one for each person, to symbolize growth and the future. Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Coming up, we'll hear from the Mi'kmaq artist who designed the orange shirt for Walmart this year. Stick around. Welcome back. NDP MP Leah Gazan introduced a private members bill earlier today. It's aimed at combating residential school denialism and stopping the harm it causes to survivors, their families, and communities. Gazan accused some of her fellow parliamentarians of residential school denialism during her speech in the House of Commons. The Winnipeg Centre MP says that the government is serious about reconciliation, then they need to protect survivors and their families from hate.
Today I rise to table an act to amend the Criminal Code promotion of hatred against Indigenous peoples. If passed, this bill would add to the Criminal Code the offence of willfully promoting hatred against Indigenous peoples by condoning, denying, justifying, or downplaying the harm caused by the residential school system in Canada, calling irrefutable historical facts into question. A genocidal project that was recognized as such unanimously in the House. Survivors and their families deserve to heal from this intergenerational tragedy and be free from violent hate, and we cannot allow their safety and well-being to be put further at risk. All parliamentarians must stand firm against all forms of damaging hate speech, including the denial of the tragedy of the residential schools in Canada. And at a time of increasing residential school denialism, including from some parliamentarians, survivors, their families, and communities need protection and a platform to share our history. In honor of Orange Shirt Day, I extend this gift to you on behalf of me and all of my colleagues. May you find justice and healing in the protection of your stories. Thank you very much.
Walmart stores across Canada are selling Every Child Matters t-shirts again this year. And this year's design is by Mi'kmaq artist Natasha Root. Angel Moore has more.
The design on these shirts is the creation of Natasha Root of the Listugush Mi'kmaq Nation in Quebec. The Every Child Matters t-shirts are being sold in Walmart stores across Canada. Root couldn't be happier.
Very, very honored. I'm very, very happy and very, very proud.
Root won the NDTR Design Contest held by Indigenous Proud, an Indigenous-owned company that collaborates with Walmart Canada. Root says the wolf design is a symbol of empowerment.
The wolf is one of the 7 sacred teaching animals in our Mi'kmaq culture. So it serves as a timeline, a reminder that, you know, regardless of the era, our children will always matter, and, you know, so our strength is going to always be there.
Jesse Keane is a manager at the Halifax Walmart location. He says the shirts are popular with customers.
The response with customers is overwhelming. We sell out the orange shirts every single year in Walmart Canada. This is actually our second time selling out since we've got the shirts in a couple weeks ago.
As well, every September 30th, Walmart associates wear the orange shirts to support National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Keane recalls the first year staff wore them and the reaction from 2 Indigenous co-workers.
Everybody just like a sea of orange that day, everybody wearing their orange shirts supporting. And those 2 associates, they spoke at our meeting and they felt supported in that moment. And it changed me as a leader, it changed the way that I led people. And everybody just has to be included. And that's what I took from that.
Each year, a different design for the orange shirt is chosen. Marlise Wilson is the Senior Director of Merchandising.
Featuring Indigenous artists to tell their story of what that day means to them and the symbolism behind it. For me, getting to learn about the different art styles from all of the different nations has been amazing.
This is the 4th year Walmart Canada has been selling Every Child Matters shirts.
It broadens like the knowledge more of what Orange Shirt Day is for people who are not Indigenous, you know, and it's reconciling like who we are as people, and it's connecting us. So, you know, it's a great opportunity, and I'm proud of it. I'm very proud.
Walmart Canada will donate 100% of the profits to the Orange Shirt Society and Indian Residential School Survivor Society. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, also known as Halifax.
Ahead of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a new play called Owl Calling is bringing a story about healing from residential school trauma to the stage. It's produced by the Brandon-based Root Sky Theatre Company and premieres at the Rachel Brown Theatre in Winnipeg this week. Set in the summer of 2011, the play follows two best friends, Eddie and Jim, who embark on their healing journey as residential school survivors. The story highlights the flaws of the federal government's independent assessment process, which the playwrights say has provided cash compensation but few resources to survivors. The production is directed by Charlene Van Buchenhout and features an all-star cast including Tracy Niepenak and Jeremy Pearl. Métis playwright and producer Daryl Racine discusses what the hopes audiences learn from the play.
Understanding this idea of reconciliation. To this point, the reconciliation that has taken place has for the most part been, it's been Indigenous people that have been forwarding that effort. And I think that for this work, what we're trying to say is that that the non-Indigenous community needs to have a greater effort in regards to reconciliation, and that they need to understand what it actually takes to participate in that reconciliation.
Time for one last break, and then we'll take you to one of the largest art shows in Australia. Stick around. Welcome back. Here's a look at your current conditions. 16 in Halifax, sunny, and 13 in Fredericton. 14 in Kuujjuaq, 12 in Nain. Showers and 16 in Montreal, 12 with rain in Val-d'Or. 13 in Sault Ste. Marie and North Bay. In Northern Ontario, 14 in Thunder Bay, it's sunny, and 15 in Sioux Lookout. 17 in sunny and God's Lake, 20 in Norway House at this hour. 18 under sunny skies here in Winnipeg, 23 and sunny in Dauphin. 15 and cloud in Regina, cloudy and 18 in Saskatoon. 8 in Meadow Lake, 17 and sunny for La Ronge. Over in northern Alberta at this hour, showers and 14 in High Level, Peace River, and Grand Prairie. 16 in Edmonton, the sun is out, and 20 in Lethbridge. Showers and 15 in Vancouver, 17 with rain in Kamloops. 10 and showers in Prince George and Smithers. +3 in Old Crow, sun's out, and 9 in Whitehorse. 10 with rain in Yellowknife, 6 and showers in Norman Wells. 5 with rain in Sax Harbor and Paulatuck. Showers and 11 for Whale Cove and Arviette. +3 in Resolute, it's 5 in Igloolik. The Sydney Contemporary Art Fair is one of Australia's biggest, with millions of dollars worth of works up for sale, from modern sculptures to the ancient tools of First Nations Australians. It features exhibits from around the globe. This report is from our friends at National Indigenous Television in Australia.
It's called Sydney Contemporary 2024. The famous Carriage Works precinct bursting with hundreds of creations.
So this year marks the 8th edition of Sydney Contemporary. We are thrilled to present 87 galleries and over 400 artists.
Emerging ceramic artist Alfred Lowe won the event's coveted $10,000 MA Art Prize. The proud Arundel man's colourful works caught the judge's eye, ahead of 28 other finalists.
Being recognised by Sydney Contemporary in this way and by the judging panel, I don't know, it's so exciting. I'm so happy and proud and just overwhelmed a little bit, I think, by how it's all going.
This spectacular piece features the tools and weapons of the Arungal people of Central Australia. It's part of a broader exhibit by the APY Art Centre Collective, which represents 6 art centres in South Australia.
It doesn't feel like work, you're just painting your story and you're talking about your family, you know? So when people want to buy it, it's like, wow, they like that. I'm just painting who I am, keeping my identity strong, you know?
The exhibition has a huge array of works. Some are valued at a few $100s, while this extraordinary piece by one of Australia's greatest artists, a Majida painter, the late Emily Kwade, is worth $3.3 million. While other public art events struggle, this fair is holding firm. Last year attracting 25,000 visitors and racking up $21 million in sales. Marcella Sinalanga, NITV News.
$3.3 million, eh? Holy, some nice works there, though. That's all the time we have for your first look at this Thursday's news. Creason will be back at 6 p.m. Eastern Time with your APTN National News. Meantime, you can also visit our website for the very latest at aptnnews.ca. I'm Dennis Ward, Marcy Miigwech. Thanks for being with us. Have a great afternoon.